Welcome back, you lovely people. On today's video, we're going to do something slightly differently in that we have been doing our Ask Me Anythings on Mondays, which have been going really, really well. But I also have a long list of questions that I've been getting sent in, and I've been trying to cover them on those Monday sessions and I haven't gotten to them. So today, tomorrow, and Friday, I'm going to make my way through those questions. Today, I'm going to answer all the ones that I've been sent by newbies and beginners. Tomorrow, some of the more complicated topics. And on Friday, I'm going to cover the altcoins. But each day, we'll start with a little market update as well. And today, as I'm sure that you've seen, the market looks absolutely fantastic. Bitcoin is up 6%. Over 51,000. I've been making some jokes today about remembering what it used to be like when Bitcoin was under 50,000. You remember everybody panicking over the past week or so. And what's been amazing about doing this work in this community is that we've all stayed really, really, really calm over the past week, and we've had that perspective. We know what the cycle looks like, and we're prepared for these situations. And now we get the rewards of that, which is Bitcoin recovering really, really nicely. The big story of the day really is Ethereum, up nearly 10%, over 1,600. And that's expected because Ethereum has been lagging somewhat. So it's just playing a bit of catch up. But seeing it up 10% and seeing Link up 9% as well, I think is really, really healthy for the crypto market. Ethereum and Chainlink being two of the biggest components of the crypto market. And alongside that, you're seeing Binance coin, which has been very strong, is quite flat today, 3%. Cardano is very flat, that's 2%. So you're seeing some rotation from Cardano and Binance into Ethereum and Chainlink is what it looks like and feels like to me. And that's really healthy. Ethereum and Chainlink will take the market higher. And it doesn't mean that Cardano, Binance, and others won't follow. A lot of the altcoins look super strong as well. Ocean's been great over the past few days, up another 6.5%. Graph up 12%. A lot of the smaller altcoins up 10, 20, 30%. So things look really, really strong. Of course, we could still break to the downside. We have to keep that in mind. But right now, it looks like we are targeting the previous all-time high of 58,000. There could be some resistance around there. Often when we get back into that sort of level, then we might drop down a little bit. But our eyes really are on the upside. We're looking now to break that. We'll be looking at $70,000, $80,000, $90,000. My base case is that we head somewhere between $80,000 and $90,000 before we have our next major pullback. The first ones are really around people asking if it's too late to buy. I get this almost on a daily basis, which is why I wanted to cover it in this session. And I think there's two ways of looking at that question. Firstly, you think about it from the long-term perspective. If you think about the fact that Tesla and Elon Musk have only just bought Bitcoin, many of the other institutions are now starting to look at it. A lot of high net worth individuals are still not in and are going to come in. You are still really, really, really early to the game, even if you invest now. Of course, the price has gone up from 4,000 earlier in the year to, what is it now, $52,000. So you've missed a big increase. However, if you have a long-term time horizon and you're looking towards 2025 or 2029, I mean, just for 2025, we're probably going to see Bitcoin in certainly well over $1 million. Probably more in the region of $5 million or more. So you're really early because it's currently $50,000. But if you're looking to play and invest in this Bitcoin cycle, then all I can say is that the risk reward is reducing somewhat. Of course, we started talking about it when it was 8,000, and now we're at 50,000. Our target is around $300,000. So with every dollar that it goes up and every day that you wait, then you are, of course, reducing your returns and you're increasing your risk, because the closer we get to the peak, then the more likely you are to miss the gains and invest too high and then potentially make a mistake and sell lower. But I've been saying Bitcoin is cheap under $50,000. We're only at $51,500 now, and the price is about to take off. So, for us to get to $300,000 and beyond by September, of course, that's what it needs to happen. It needs to start moving very, very quickly. And that's exactly what is going to happen, because that is the Bitcoin cycle. That's how it works. The vast majority of the gains are made in the last couple of months. And that's what we're really moving into now. So I'm calling it Last Chance Saloon for people that follow me, because I wouldn't want you to be one of the ones that invests at, let's call it $150,000, $200,000, which there will be many people that do that, just like there was in 2017. Go back and look at the chart. We went up to $20,000 in 2017. People thought that was really high. So when I say $300,000, people thought $20,000 was really high. And of course, there were people that bought at $16,000, $17,000, $18,000, $19,000, and then they had to stomach a 3-year bear market of watching the price go down and watching their portfolio deteriorate. So I'm trying to make sure that the people that follow me are not caught on the wrong side of that. And all that means is getting invested as soon as possible. So not too late, but for this cycle, really last chance saloon. I want you to start investing, particularly in 6 figures. I definitely want everybody in before that, but like I've been saying, I want everybody in as soon as possible. Where on earth do I start? How much is too little to start with an investment? Well, you start by grabbing my course, which is in the description on YouTube or the bio on Instagram. It's a really, really easy to understand and fairly quick course. You probably do it in 4 or 5 hours, and it's free. So there's no excuse. So you must start with that if you already haven't. And how much is too little to start with? Well, there really is no number per se. If you can invest £100, then that's a lot better than zero. I talk about getting off zero is really important for many reasons. To get that experience, to understand how to do it, but also so that you can say that you're a Bitcoiner and you're not a no-coiner, because I believe in the future that's going to be really, really important. We're not just talking about the price going up. We're talking potentially about the next global reserve currency. It's going to certainly play a massive role in the financial system. So to make sure that you are involved somewhat is really important. People have the misconception that they have to invest large amounts. And I think that comes partly from the price being $51,000. Also a misconception of investing, where people believe that you have to have tens of thousands of pounds to be an investor. And it's completely false. Whatever little you have as disposable income, as long as you have enough reserved as an emergency fund if anything goes wrong, then that's an investment pot for you. And it doesn't mean you have to invest the whole amount. You can invest a portion of that. Just know that what you don't invest out of your disposable income, you are investing, because you're choosing to invest it in the pound or the dollar or the euro. And it is a fact that they are terrible investments. But of course, they do add that level of security where you know that cash is going to be there ready for you. But it's really important to change your perspective, just at least to understand that if you're not invested in other assets, then you're invested in fiat currency. and then you can go from there and make much more informed decisions. And the next question I think is similar. Is now a good time to start regular investments for the long haul? I know you kind of answer in the course, but anything repeated, guessing it's to do with compound interest. So right now, talking about Bitcoin and crypto, we're in a 4-year Bitcoin cycle and we're in the last 6 months. So just having that framing is really important when you're thinking about regular investments versus upfront investments. If you wanted to maximize your returns in this Bitcoin cycle, then you would front load investments, e.g. do it now or do it as soon as possible. But there is an alternative strategy, which is a really, really good one. And that's dollar cost averaging for the long term. So if we mostly talk about getting positioned as early as possible so that we can benefit from this Bitcoin cycle, because that's the strategy we've been working with for a year. And of course, it's going to be really, really profitable for the people that have been following. But a second strategy, which is probably is more suited to somebody that doesn't want to be following the market and the price as often, and to understand the cycle inside and out, is to dollar cost average. What does that mean? It just means buying small amounts on a regular basis, either every week or every month. That's a really good strategy if that's what you want to follow. You just need to be aware that there will be a big crash in Bitcoin around September. So whatever you've put in up to that point, you're going to see the value of that collapse, probably up to 80%. But that's not necessarily a bad thing, because if you are doing it on a monthly basis, you'll just continue to invest those amounts every week or every month, even through the peak and through the crash. And what you're looking at is 2025, 2029, when Bitcoin is worth over 1 million, probably over 10 million by 2029. And you'll have been steadily accumulating and holding Bitcoin. The people that have been doing that for the past 8 years are now multimillionaires, if not some of them are billionaires. There's a lot of Bitcoin billionaires being created, and they have been dollar cost averaging for a long time. We haven't been following that strategy because we are trying to get a leg up in this community and maximize our returns from this for this cycle. I will actually start talking a lot more about that in the 2022 Bitcoin playbook, which you can all look forward to in probably in December, where we'll be looking to reaccumulate on a dollar cost average strategy over a couple of years going into the 2024-2025 bull market in Bitcoin. One can't buy one Bitcoin, right? Only a part of it, brackets, apart from people like Elon. That's simply to do with how much money you have to invest. Right now, you can buy one Bitcoin if you have $51,459, and then you buy one whole Bitcoin. And if you have less than that, then you just portion it out. So if you have I can't do the maths off the top of my head, but we used the example before of having £100, you would buy a very small fraction of one Bitcoin. And don't be put off by that. It's all brilliant. You don't need to own one Bitcoin. Very few people. There will only be 21 million Bitcoin that ever exist. Currently 18.5 million exist, and probably a few million of them have been lost. So let's call it 16 million. And there are, correct me if I'm wrong, 7 billion people in the world. Though that math doesn't work. So there will be very, very few people that have a whole Bitcoin. If you do, congratulations. And if you don't worry. Having a part of it is absolutely fine. That's almost like saying, you have to buy a whole apartment block. No, you don't. You can just buy one little apartment. What's the lowest you think Bitcoin will drop to in the future? And how much correction do we expect after September? based on our current target of 296,000 and the average drawdown at the end of the bull market, which is 80%, that would put us at $60,000 Bitcoin. Now I'm going to update those price targets over the next couple of months as we've been through the next mini wave, the next peak and the next correction. But based on our current targets, I would expect the low in 2022 to be $60,000, and that would be an 80% drawdown. How do we know when we're in the peak? Well, that's mostly laid out in the course, so go check it out. We're following a number of different indicators. There is price action is probably the clearest, although easier said than done, and that's when the price starts going vertical. We're looking at timing, a certain amount of months after the halving. That puts us in a range of between August and October, which we'll be looking out for. And then there are some more technical indicators that I won't get into right now, but see it like a dashboard, and they're all, at the moment, they're, you know, flashing green, which means everything's great. And then as we get closer to the peak, some of them start flashing amber, and then finally, when they all start flashing red, then we're at the peak. Of course, picking the absolute peak is impossible. We can talk about it all day long, but when you're in the midst of it, it is really, really hard to do. So what we'll be looking to do is identify when we're in a certain vicinity of the peak, and then execute a take profit strategy if that's what you're choosing to do. And all of that is laid out in the course, including the next one. How much profit do we squeeze out? That's in the cash out take profit or cash out strategy of the course. And you have options. I'm suggesting that it would be unwise to take 100% out. And that's because there is a scenario where the price just keeps going up. It just goes up for infinity, basically, because Bitcoin sucks in all other assets, all financial assets, and becomes the global reserve currency. It's a small possibility, but we have to keep it in mind. So you wouldn't want to miss out on that in the unlikely event that it happens. And then from that, if you're assuming you're leaving in at least 1%, then you have a decision to make about whether that's 1%, 5%, 10%, 20%, or 100%. And if it's 100%, that's great. And just understand that you're going through that crash and you're looking towards 2024, 2025. If one is investing into Bitcoin or any other altcoin, would the strategy for this year to be to buy now and hold until the estimated peak is reached and then sell, and buy again once the estimated low is reached, or do we buy and hold forever? I think we've covered that a couple of ways so far, but just to finish that off, we're looking for the peak around September, and then probably around the middle of 2022 towards the autumn of 2022, we'll be looking for a bottom about $60,000, but we'll confirm that number as we get closer. And strategy one, which I'm mostly teaching in the course, is we're going to take some profits on the way up and then reaccumulate at the bottom. And your second option is that you're buying and holding forever, is what this question says. And yeah, potentially forever, because if you believe that Bitcoin is going to become a standard medium of exchange, you're seeing Tesla now accepting Bitcoin payments for cars. I got a notification today that a travel company had started accepting Ocean, which is like an altcoin to book holidays, right? So crypto is becoming more widely used, and I fully expect that to continue over the next couple of years. So if you believe that Bitcoin is going to become a standard medium of exchange, maybe it becomes a global reserve currency, then you wouldn't necessarily ever have to take profits, because you are already holding the best investment store of value a medium of exchange, and therefore you can just start using your Bitcoin and your crypto to facilitate your life. I think that's the direction we're going in. So that's a personal decision that needs to be made, and you have some time to think about it, because we're looking at a peak around September. So much of what I expect everybody to be doing, and I put out a post about this on Instagram earlier today, is to really be thinking deeply about the situation, what's happening with crypto, what's happening in the global economy, where you think things are going, and what you want to achieve. And from that, you're going to make some decisions. And I will be guiding that. There will be a lot more videos and Ask Me Anythings and all sorts as we move towards the peak. All these stories about lost Bitcoins, does that also apply when buying crypto via apps like crypto.com? I'm assuming you haven't heard stories about lost Bitcoins recently, because exchanges haven't been hacked recently. They're generally getting more secure, which is why I feel more comfortable saying that Coinbase and Binance are fairly safe if you choose to keep them on exchange. Crypto.com, I've heard some bad things about, not awful, just bad customer service and getting a Bitcoin off of it. So I'd be cautious. I see a lot of people going to crypto.com and I can't figure out why. My only guess is that because it's the domain crypto.com and they think it's going to be good. But it's not my recommendation. Does one need a physical wallet to store coins? Again, it's personal choice. It depends if you're comfortable with the risk of leaving it on exchange. And like I said, 2 years ago, I would have said you need to get it off. But now the Coinbase is doing their IPO next month. Binance is the widest used exchange in the world. So they're proper businesses and they have security layers that you can turn on. So I recommend, if you don't want the hassle of a physical wallet, you are more than okay on Coinbase and Binance. Of course, I'm not liable if they do get hacked, but it would be really shocking if that happened. You still sticking with 296K, or do you think you can amend it? I will be amending it. So I'm expecting us to move towards $80,000 to $90,000 over the next month or to 6 weeks. When that happens, we'll probably have our next correction. And in the last cycle, that was our biggest correction, which was 38%, and it lasted 5 or 6 weeks. Keep in mind, we just had 25% over a week and everybody was freaking out. So everybody's going to freak out big time when that happens. We'll be prepared for it. That's why I keep talking about it. But once we've had that price action, I'll be able to reconfigure all my models and see where we are. Because right now it looks like, by most measures, that we are ahead. So that would mean my $296,000 target would be too conservative, and we'd be looking more towards 350, 400. I mean, even there's a graph called the cycle repeat graph, which is great. Google it, and that tracks what the price would be if from this second we repeated the last cycle, and that puts us around $700 and something thousand. So $700,000 is a possibility. And I'm going to redo all of my numbers and all of my models probably in about 1 to 2 months when we've been through that process. And then I will communicate that to everybody. If things continue as they are, fully expect that $296,000 target to increase. Last time we saw a dip, it was timed precisely with Biden's administration coming in. This time it's timed precisely with the roadmap out of lockdown. Both timings are linked to things returning to normal. I just kept this question as an example, of people getting distracted by noise and trying to justify what's happening with the price with all sorts of various stories and theories. And for the most part, it's really unhelpful for you, because it increases your anxiety levels dramatically. The course is the 4-year Bitcoin cycle, and that is the strategy we're following. There is almost nothing at this point which could knock us off track. We've talked in depth about regulation and how that's not going to happen. I've talked about big hacks used to have a massive impact on the market, but we're not seeing that, and Coinbase and Binance are so secure now. I'll touch wood, hopefully not tempting fate. So we don't need to be following the news and trying to relate it to what's happening with Bitcoin. And you can really get lost down rabbit holes. Of course, if you want to do that, then feel free, but don't let that impact your view on the Bitcoin market and your decision making, because that's going to be a losing battle. I have no idea if those things are true or not, because I ignore them all. I'm just following price. Could it be if the economic fallout isn't so bad, then the crypto market will fall earlier than your expected timeline? Again, it's very similar. And no, not at all, because the September timeline is based on the halving and the Bitcoin cycle, and it's based on price action. And the peak will be determined by supply and demand. It won't be determined by economic numbers. We are going up really quickly due to money printing. That's built into the models because Bitcoin was invented by Satoshi Nakamoto, who invented it because of money printing and manipulation by governments and central banks. So we know that's happening, and we know it's fueling the fire. That's why we're invested in Bitcoin. But whether we come out of lockdown or not come out of lockdown is really irrelevant to what happens with the Bitcoin price. And like this cycle have achieved higher peaks if it wasn't for COVID. No, and you can see that actually, because in February, the whole financial market had a big meltdown, as I'm sure you saw, and Bitcoin dropped 60% or so, which was a bit of a black swan event outside of our models, and it has just recovered. And if anything, we're ahead of where we expected to be. So even though we lost, I think it was 70% actually, even though we lost 70% of the price 1 year ago, we then recovered all of that back and have gone up from $4,000 to $51,000. So you can see how Bitcoin is super resilient to everything that's happening in the outside world. And that's also why we talk about following signal over noise, because there is so much noise out there, and if you're following Bitcoin, you're going to deal with so much noise, whether it's true or not. All sorts of stuff about climate change, which I'm sure you've seen, about regulation, about politicians coming out and saying that it's a scam, it being inefficient, etc. You need to block all of that out. You will also need to block out noise on the upside, because as we approach the peak, it's going to be absolute euphoria, and people will be talking about Bitcoin going straight to $1 million. And you'll need to block that out as well, because we are using the Bitcoin cycle. And just at that moment where everybody thinks it's going to go to $1 million, then that's probably when we're going to crash, whether that's at 3, 4, 5, 600,000, we don't know. But we'll be following that really closely. As long as you stay tuned to YouTube channel, my Instagram content, definitely watch my course if you haven't already. And do send in any questions, either live on a Monday or send them to me direct, and then I'll make sure that I get them answered at some point. But they are all of the questions from section 1 of all the questions I've been sent in. So a reminder, tomorrow I'll be covering more advanced questions and topics that have been sent in, and then on Friday I'll be covering altcoins, which I know some people are interested in, some aren't, so I want to split them out accordingly. And then we'll get back to our normal videos and a live Ask Me Anything on Monday if anybody hasn't had the chance for me to answer their questions yet. So thank you everybody for joining and listening, and I will be back here tomorrow at the same time.